Hey guys, Paul here with Spartan Survival and Readiness, looking at a do-it-yourself survival emergency heater. Part 1 ended up being a lot longer than I thought it would be, looking at how to build the thing and kind of the theory behind it, so I ended up breaking it into 2 videos. So if you're interested, if you missed Part 1 I should say, go ahead and click on the link below to take you to Part 1. It looks at the theory and how to build it. Part 2 that we're about to get into, we're going to run this thing through some tests. I know in some of the other YouTube videos that are out there on building these things, people have a lot of questions on, you know, how long does it burn for, and can you cook with it, and all some, you know, questions like that. So we're going to see what we can answer today. We're in Alaska, it's 36 below outside, so we're going to put this thing to the test and get it outside. So with that, enjoy the video. Okay, so we've got our heater built. It's time to test this thing and see how it does. As I mentioned earlier, quite a few people have asked, you know, in the comments and stuff like that on some of these other YouTube videos, how long is it going to burn? You know, is it going to increase the temperature enough to make it worth it? You know, concerns about whether it's going to freeze or not, can it boil water? So we're going to try and test as many of these as we can. So this is the one that we just built, brand new. So it's pretty much ready to go. It's going to fire up pretty quick, obviously, because it's still warm, because the fuel in it's still warm. So take your key, you know, your key would be taped on here. Go ahead and take the key off. Pop this lid off. Just kind of work your way around, just like, you know, you're opening a paint can, because that's what it is. It's a paint can. And obviously I pounded that quite a bit. Mentioned earlier that use a rubber mallet to get an airtight seal in there so that your fuel's not vaporizing. So you can see there's still a little bit pooled on the top. It's probably a little bit more than you're going to want. I got a little carried away when I was filling this thing in. Got it started, you know, I was trying to wrap up that video, so I was pouring it a little faster than I should have been. So there's quite a bit on the top. It's probably going to have a real heavy duty burn there to start with. So we'll fire it up. We're going to let it run for a few minutes and burn down. And then we'll test a couple of things. Number one, we're going to test how long this thing will burn. And number two, a lot of people have asked whether you can boil water with this or cook food, you know, things like that. So we're going to test that and see what happens. But we'll go ahead and light this thing up, see what it looks like. Not sure if you could see that. Let me get the camera zoomed in a little bit. You can see that just fine. So there's your fire. Pretty good fire going. Like I said, I got a little carried away with that fuel, so it's going to burn whatever's off the top. One thing that you're going to find with these heaters too is that they'll burn, you know, you're going to get a fairly tall flame like this. You're probably talking about a 6, 7, 8 inch flame on there. You're going to get a fairly tall flame like that for about 15-20 minutes. And then eventually, as it kind of stabilizes, the flame level is going to go down. So that'll help quite a bit when you're in a vehicle. Okay, before we get too carried away with some of the testing that we're gonna want to do, just kind of want to give you an idea to put this thing out. It's actually not as bad as it looks like. You know, it's burned isopropyl alcohol, so you want to be a little bit careful because it is open flame. You know, you certainly can try and blow just like that, and it'll go out. So not too bad. The other thing that you can do, just take your lid. That's one of the reasons why you want to keep the lid handy, is you actually can just slide the lid right over the top and it'll snuff it out, you know, just like that. It's pretty easy. So these things are handy to have, you know, if you get carried away. The thing you got to be really careful with on these, especially in a vehicle or a confined space like that, you want to be really careful you don't knock this thing over. You spill that alcohol in your vehicle, you're going to have a major fire and it's going to be a pain to put out. So be real careful when you're burning that, you know, put it on a stable surface, a console or whatever, something like that. The other thing about these heaters, a lot of people have asked, is whether they get real hot. The nice thing about these is if you keep that fluid full, it acts like a wick. So it's wicking it all to the top for the fire to catch. You don't really need to worry about the bottom of the can. You know, it's been burning for a couple minutes. You really don't need to worry about the bottom of the can being hot. The only place it gets hot is right up here around the lid, you know, where the flame was, obviously. Again, that depends on how full your fluid is too, so make sure you keep that fluid full. Alright, let's go ahead and do some of our testing now that I've showed you how to light it and put it out. So, a lot of people have asked on some of these other videos, comments on YouTube and stuff like that, whether you can cook with these, whether you can boil water in an emergency situation. So we're going to go ahead and try that out. Now, assuming that this is an emergency situation, you don't have a whole lot of options for a flat cooktop, we're going to go ahead and use the paint can key that we use to open it. Be real careful with this, because once you put this sucker on there, it's going to be hot. So you're going to want to be careful when you get it off. You know, be careful where you set it, stuff like that. So we're going to go ahead and set this on the top. Got my little Stanley Adventure Series cook pot. Got it's not as easy as it looks. Got about 16 ounces. So we've got about 16 ounces of fluid in there. We're going to time this thing and see how long it takes to boil 16 ounces of water. Again, be real careful because that pot's going to get hot, and so is that the paint can key that you're using to hold it. But again, we're treating this like it's a you know, a survival situation, emergency situation. We're going to be careful. You notice the flame's gone down quite a bit, just because we're cutting off access to the oxygen for that thing to breathe. So your flame's gone down quite a bit on there. And we're going to see how long it takes to boil that water. Again, it's 16 ounces, so stay tuned, I'll let you know. Okay, so I went ahead and turned the lights off. Again, we're trying to boil water on this thing, see how it does. Went ahead and turned the lights off, just so you could see there's not a lot of flame. When you get that pot on there, you're hardly getting any flame at all, so I suspect it's going to take a while. You know, potentially what you could do, come up with some sort of a cooktop, make one, you know, and keep it in your car kit for situations where you do need to boil water, survival situations, stuff like that. Just because using this paint can key is not the ideal solution. Obviously, we barely have any flame going at all, but we're going to sit tight again. We're doing tests assuming that this is an emergency survival situation, so we're going to leave it going, just see how long it does take set up like this, but I suspect it's going to take quite a while. Although when you're, you know, stuck on the side of the road in a snowbank somewhere, you got plenty of time on your hands. You know, good for morale, gives you something to do to keep you busy while you're waiting for help to come. So sit tight, we'll see how long this takes. Okay guys, it's true what they say, a watch pot never boils. This is painful. I was sitting out here waiting, finally I said screw it, and had to go inside, drink some coffee and come back outside and check on it. Well, it's starting to come to a rolling boil. We're 35 minutes into it, as you can see from the stopwatch. So don't count on using this thing as a cooker, boiling water with it. At least not in an emergency situation using the key like that. Not the ideal solution. I mentioned earlier how low the flame was. If you're planning on using it as a cooker, or you want to be able to use it as a cooker in a survival situation, make sure you come up with some kind of a top that you can get on here to level the pot out, the water pot a little bit, and raise it up so you actually get enough oxygen to keep the fire going. This is not the ideal solution. You know, if I was stuck out somewhere and it took 35 minutes of boiled water, I probably would be even more depressed about that than I was about the situation I was stuck in. Anyhow, so not an ideal cooker, can be used for it. Again, it took about 35 minutes, and that was, what was that, 16 ounces of water. So, you know, it's doable, but you might want to come up with a better solution to that. So we're going to take this pot off here, and we're going to get rid of that. And you can see once I get it off and the top opens up a little bit, you get a lot more oxygen, so your flame's starting to pick back up. Now that we've tested the cook theory, what we're going to do, we're going to blow this thing out, we're going to refill it with fuel, and then we're going to relight it again to see how much total cumulative time you can get out of one of these heaters. So stay tuned, we'll be right back. Okay, we're going to go ahead and refill this heater that we just used. One thing that you need to be aware of, especially if you're in a vehicle or a closed-in environment like that, you need to make sure that the flame is completely out. You know, blow it out, put the lid on it, snuff it out. Make sure it's completely out before you add the rubbing alcohol, otherwise you're going to have some major issues. Highly flammable. You know, it'll burn out of the heater back up the rubbing alcohol, or back up the stream up into the jar, and potentially, you know, obviously you can have major fire in your hand, but potentially explosive too. So make sure that that fire is completely out before you add the alcohol back in there. So we'll just go ahead and top this back off, make sure it's completely full, and we'll go ahead and light it up for the length of burn test, see how long this thing will burn for, now that we tested the boiling theory, which didn't work out so well. Alright, looks like we're completely topped off. So we'll go ahead and light it up, we'll set the stopwatch up, see how long this burns for, and let you know. I don't know if you could see that flame, it's pretty blue. There we go. So we'll leave it burning, let it burn, and get back to you. Okay, we're back, and you see the flames are pretty much dying down to nothing. The other thing that you're going to notice right there on the top, that the toilet paper actually has singed so much, it's actually black. And typically what you want to do, you actually want to put the fire out before it gets to that point, just snuff it out. We're coming up just on 2 hours right now, or just actually close to 2.5 hours right now, but the point where the toilet paper started to turn brown, we're right at about 2 hours. So with a full load with the 24 ounces of fuel, this little 1 quart paint can is going to burn for just about 2 hours. Again, at the 2 hour point, what you want to do, you want to snuff the flame out completely. Ideally, you're carrying a refill of the rubbing alcohol in your vehicle, so once you snuff the flame out, you can actually refill it and get another 2 hours out of it. Now I let it burn long, and that's why it's black and charcoaly on the top. I let it burn long because I wanted to, you know, I wanted to show you guys what would happen and see how long this thing will truly burn. So useful fire, you're looking about 2 hours. You know, I suspect that if I leave it going, it's probably, you know, we're at 2.5 hours now. I suspect it probably would burn for another probably 15-20 minutes, burn more of that toilet paper down. You know, but then you're burning up your wick, you're not going to be able to refill it and reuse it. So I'm going to go ahead and put this thing out, otherwise this stove's going to be worthless. So we'll put it out. And again, you know, it's not too much singed on the top, so I can go ahead and refill it with fuel and I'd be able to use this heater again. So burn time, you're looking about 2 hours useful life. You know, in a pinch you could run it for 2.5 if you're desperate, but ideally what you're going to do is you're going to carry extra rubbing alcohol in there in your vehicle kit so you can refill it, get about 2 hours out of each use. So that answers your burn time questions. Let's go ahead and fire this thing up. We're going to give this a true test. As I mentioned earlier, it's about 35, you know, 35, 38 below, something like that outside. We're going to put this thing in my truck. We're going to fire it up. We're going to throw a thermometer in there. My truck hasn't run for about 1.5 days now, so it's 38 below inside my truck. We're going to fire one of these stoves up. We're going to put it in the truck and see what kind of a difference this thing actually will make for heating up the inside of a vehicle. So stay tuned. Okay guys, before we put this into the truck and test it out, I mentioned, I guess in the first half of this video, I had built one a couple of days ago and left it outside. It's about, you know, it's been 40 below at night. It's, what is it right now? See if you can get down there, see what the temp is. Close to, probably about 35 below. You may not be able to read that accurately from the angle that you're looking at, but it's about 36. 36 below. So it's kind of hard to shoot in temperatures like that. One thing that we have to do actually for cameras, to keep the cameras from freezing, we actually have to take some of those hot grip, you know, the hand warmers that you get, put inside your mittens, and tape one to the battery on the camera. Otherwise the battery on the camera is going to freeze. You're not going to be able to shoot anything. So this is the can I built a couple days ago. Left it outside for the past 2 days, again about 40 below at night. So this thing's good, solid frozen. So we're going to pop it open and we're going to see what happens. You know, see if we can get it lit, see if these things truly are freeze proof. Okay, I had to go get my key out of the garage here. I left it with the other one. So we're going to pop this open. Again, it's been sitting out here for a couple of days. Good solid 40 below, so it's well frozen. It might take a few minutes to get it started if it does in fact start. So let me spin the camera around so I can see what I'm doing here. So obviously it doesn't flare up like the, you know, like the brand new ones did. So the freeze point supposedly of 100% isopropyl alcohol is about 128 below, according to the MSDS. You know, it's dissipated quite a bit, it's spread out, it's soaked up into the wick and stuff like that, so it's not going to flare up like the straight fluid does. Plus, the thing you have to keep in mind is that we use 70%, so it's 30% water, so obviously that water is going to freeze. Even if the alcohol doesn't, the water may freeze. You can see, no, not much. A little bit of a blue flame there. It was trying to light. It's a slow process. Again, keep in mind it's 36 below zero out here, so it's not necessarily going to be an easy process, but it's something that I wanted to test to see if these truly are as useful as everybody says they are. See a little bit of blue flame. It's trying. See if we can get it started here. Otherwise, these heaters are worthless in Alaska, and that's kind of what I wanted to find out when I started this project. Wanted to see if they're truly as good as everybody says in the real cold weather. Hopefully this will answer your question for some of you guys. I know you guys down in the States think it gets cold in the wintertime, so if it works in Alaska, it's definitely going to work for you down there. Oh, got a little bit of flame, not much. It's trying, just not wanting to stay lit. Turns out these metal cans are a little cold on your fingers at 35 below. Not wanting to light, that's not a good sign. One thing that you could do if you had to cheat, if you carry that rubbing alcohol around with you to refill it, is you actually could squirt a little bit on the top just to get it lit, get some heat going. Because once you get some heat going in there, it's going to start to dissipate that rubbing alcohol, warm it back up a little bit. You can see, I don't know if you guys can see that on the camera or not, starting to get a little bit of flame going. Not much. A little bit right there on the top. Oh, keeps going out though. Anyhow, dump some rubbing alcohol on the top of it, get the heat going, warm up the can, just to get it lit. In fact, I think we're gonna try that. This thing's not wanting to light. You know, I suspect if I kept doing this, you can see a little bit of blue flame there. I don't know if you can see that on the camera. Anyway, I suspect if I kept trying, I probably could get it lit, but that doesn't excite me too terribly much. We'll see what happens. It's like just that one corner is wanting to light, so we'll see if we can get that corner lit, see if we can get it to keep burning. I know you guys don't want to see this. I'm going to keep messing with this thing, see if I can get it lit, and I'll come back and let you know. Okay, so I messed around with this thing for probably 5 or 10 minutes trying to get it lit. It was kind of a pain, honestly. But the good news is, you know, if you're in a desperate survival situation, you got some time on your hands, this thing will light up. The other thing to consider too is that this is going to be inside your vehicle, so obviously if you're running your vehicle, you got some heat in there. It won't be a full 40 below. But I wanted to try this thing at 40 below, you know, frozen overnight for a couple nights just to see if it worked. And yeah, it was a pain in the butt to light up, but eventually it did. You know, you basically, what you have to do to get it lit, get all the smoke out of here so you can see. That's what happens at 40 below. So what you got to do to get it lit really is you start kind of in a corner, pick a corner that you're going to start with, get the corner started, and just kind of work your way around. Once you have that corner going, then you can kind of turn the can, let the fire spread out a little bit, and then eventually you'll be able to get it going. So the good news is that these things are freeze proof. The bad news is they're a pain in the ass to light when they have frozen. And again, I suspect a lot of that has to do with the fact that there's water inside that isopropyl alcohol, so the water's gonna freeze, obviously. And then the alcohol is gonna be diluted quite a bit too, just because it's wicked up into that into the toilet paper. So there's the fire. Got fire going. Spin over here real quick if I can. don't know if you guys can read that or not, but again, it's about 36 below. It's actually cooling off a little bit too. It's starting to get nighttime, starting to lose some light. 36 below. But we did get the fire going, so the good news is that proves that these are freeze proof. So I'm happy about that. They're definitely worth carrying in the back of your car. And again, as you saw earlier with the burn test, they'll burn for about 2 hours. So now that we got that lit, we'll go ahead and throw one in the truck and see what kind of a difference it makes as far as heat goes. Again, you just looked at the thermometer, it's 36 below, so I'll throw that thermometer in my truck and we'll see, you know, how much it comes up. Give it a little bit of time, see what happens. Stay tuned. Okay, so we're in the truck now. As you can see, thermometer, it's pretty cold in the truck. It's, you know, ambient temperature, which is about 36 below. There's the thermometer. Kind of hard to get a good angle here in the truck, but it's a Dodge Ram quad cab, so it's a 4-door pickup truck. This is the one I just, extra one I had inside, or the one I was just burning here a few minutes ago. We're going to light it off. You can see it steaming just because of how cold it is. I had this one burning here a few minutes ago just for demonstration purposes. We're going to light it up and we're going to check on our thermometer. We'll let it burn for a few minutes, you know, 15, 20, 30 minutes. We're starting to lose daylight, so we'll see how long we can do this for. But I'm going to light it up. I've got the lid underneath it just to keep it off the console. Again, you don't really get heat on the bottom, but don't really want to take any chances. So we'll light it off. Let it spread, let the flame spread a little bit, and again, you know, once it lights, it's cold out here, so it's not really it's not excited about burning. Let's put it that way. Once it starts going, we'll check on temperature and see what kind of a temperature gain we get. So we'll leave the camera in here just for a few. And again, once the fire burns, you know, it's going to burn fairly high for a while. It burns for about 15-20 minutes, and then it actually will settle back down. Not be such a high flame. The other thing, obviously, you're going to get some condensation off of this just because you're burning oxygen up, and again, there's water in there. You can see the flames picking up as it starts to spread the heat a little bit. And again, for safety, I do have, I don't know if you really can tell, you can't really tell from the camera, but I do have my window cracked in the vehicle. Don't really need to because I'm not going to be sitting in the vehicle with it, but you know, just a reminder for safety, crack that window. Otherwise you're going to be in a world of hurt. You're going to burn up oxygen, carbon monoxide. Can't really get a focus on the camera now. Don't want the focus just because of the flame and the low light. So we're going to go ahead and shut the camera off. We'll come back here and check in a few minutes to see what kind of temperature increase we get, if any. Hey, while we're letting the fire go in there, just wanted to show you inside the vehicle. I don't know if you can tell really from the camera, but you're getting quite a bit of condensation on the windows, obviously. It's 40 below outside, you got heat going in there, you're going to get some condensation. The windows are starting to steam up. The other thing too, you can see with the window cracked, you're letting quite a bit of condensation and heat and steam come out that window too. So just wanted to show you guys that. Can't really see it as well from this angle. If I could hold the camera still, it would probably help, but running the heater in there. Can't see through the reflection, but down inside there is the thermometer we're going to test it with. Show you something else cool about the great thing about living in Alaska. When it's this cold outside, you plug your vehicle in. A lot of people, a lot of visitors to Alaska see these cords hanging off the front of our truck and they think, oh wow, you guys drive electrical vehicles up here, that's great. Well, no, that's not what they're for. They're for plugging in when it's 40 below. There's the thermometer there. There's the fire going. So we've got oil pan heaters and battery blankets and all kinds of good stuff up inside there. So that's what the cord on the front's hanging off for. The other cords are for the plow, but that cord plugged in right there. That's for when it gets real cold in the wintertime. Anyway, we'll check back on the fire here in a minute. Okay, so this thing's been burning in here for about 20 minutes. You probably really can't tell from the camera angle. It's warmed up, you know, probably 4 or 5 degrees. Not a whole lot, but of course when it's 40 below, it's hard to warm anything up. And actually my battery on my camera is getting cold, so it's going to die here, so we'll see what happens. One thing that I did notice too, if you look over there, driver's side window, you can see all the condensation and steam coming out of the top. Your heat's rising, so your heat is coming out the window. So having the window cracked is letting out probably the bulk of your heat. We're going to shut this off and we're going to take it inside and talk about a couple things. Okay guys, some final thoughts on this DIY survival emergency heater. Did quite a few tests today, as you've seen. Just kind of want to wrap it up for you. First of all, burn time on this thing, as I mentioned earlier, it runs for about 2 hours. You know, all in all, not too bad. Something you definitely want to think about is carrying some extra fuel with you, a couple extra cans of, or bottles of the iso alcohol with you, the rubbing alcohol with you. That way when it, you know, let it burn for about 2 hours, you snuff it out, you add more fuel. Otherwise, if you let it burn too long, you're going to end up burning up your wick, your toilet paper, and it's not going to work as effectively as it could, or as efficiently as it could. So definitely something to think about, is carry that extra fuel with you. And again, it takes about 24 ounces, and that 1 quart can is about what you're going to get in there. Otherwise you're going to overfill and you're going to have some issues. Second thought on the cold start, you know, wanted to really test it, especially in Alaska, test it whether it was freeze proof or not. Stuck it outside for a couple days at 40 below. It was freeze proof. However, something you need to keep in mind is it's not going to be, if you left it outside, it's not going to fire up just like that on the cold start. You're going to play with it, you know, 5-10 minutes, something like that, just to get it started. The easier way to do that, I ended up not doing it, but an easier way to do that would be to, you know, like I said, if you carry that backup fuel, you just squirt a little bit on the top there so you can get the fuel burning on the top. That'll heat up the wick enough so that you're starting to draw fuel through it. So that's kind of a quick start thing that you can do, is just squirt a little on the top and light it off. As far as cooking goes, cooking, as you can tell, out of the boil water test that we did, it didn't work out so well. It took quite a while to boil, not a lot of water. Definitely think about making a grill of some kind, you know, something that you can set on the top of that pot just to get it up enough, you know, as I mentioned earlier in the video, get it up enough so that the water pot that you're boiling is actually level for starters, and then so you have a little bit of a gap in there over the top of the stove, so that, you know, you can get some airflow in there so you actually have decent fire going, as you guys saw from the video. Once you put that pot directly onto the fire pipe, you really don't have a lot of oxygen in there. The fire can't breathe, so it's not burning nearly what it could be. So definitely think about making a grill of some kind, throw that in your survival kit with you. As far as a heat source, you know, which is kind of the ultimate goal of this thing, it's a survival heater, emergency survival heater. It's an adequate heat source. You know, at 40 below, it's hard to get heat out of anything, so, you know, fair to Midland is kind of a so-so heater. My battery ended up freezing, so I didn't show you guys the final. I left it in the truck burning for about an hour or so, and honestly, in an hour, I only had about a 10-degree increase in the heat inside the cab. I brought it up, you know, it was 35 below. I brought it up to about 26 below, something like that. So, you know, out of 1 hour, a 10-degree increase is nothing to write home about. It's better than nothing. Is it going to keep you alive at 40 below? No, not all by itself. You know, if you're out in temperatures like that, or if you're driving in temperatures like that, I'm hoping that you're going to have some other stuff in your vehicle, you know, just in case something bad happens. Carry the cold gear, you know, survival blankets, stuff like that, whatever you need. As a heat source, yeah, fair to Midland, but don't count solely on that. You know, the benefit of having something like that is if you do end up having to get out of the vehicle for whatever reason, you can start a fire a whole lot easier with this as a starter, you know, rather than fighting with matches and some of that other stuff when it's real cold outside, or, you know, trying to round up dry wood, stuff like that. You can start with this stove and build a fire off of that. It gives you a source, you know, a constant source, rather than having to flick your lighter all the time or mess with your fire steel or whatever. It gives you more of a constant heat source, so you can get some other stuff ignited. You know, throw a survival blanket, shelter, whatever. If you're out long term, you're definitely going to need a bigger fire than that, but you know, it gives you something to start with. So hopefully that answered some of the questions that you guys have been asking in some of these other YouTube videos in the comments. You know, if you have any other questions you'd like to see answered, any thoughts on, you know, what I did wrong or what I could do differently or whatever, I know everybody has an opinion, so just throw those out in the comments, and we'll try to respond to whatever we can respond to. And on that note, this is Paul with Spartan Survival and Readiness, and we'll see you in the next video. Take care.